Let's step into a world where nightmares do not simply visit in the dark, but remain. In this realm, terror is not a fleeting shadow that vanishes with the dawn. It is a constant, living force that pervades every forgotten crevice and every long-forgotten memory. The ground beneath your feet may betray you, shifting as if animated by an unseen hand, while the very air carries whispers of ancient secrets, murmurs of forbidden lore that no mortal was meant to hear. Here, in the oppressive gloom, ancient beings lurk, beings whose memories stretch back to the time when the cosmos was a formless chaos, and the first sparks of starlight barely illuminated the void. You have heard the legend of Zath, a once glorious city that reached toward the heavens. Its spires a testament to human ambition and arcane mastery. In its golden age, Zath was the center of a civilization that dared to commune with the divine, its people skilled in arts both wondrous and terrible. They mastered secrets that bridged the gap between the natural and the supernatural, commanding forces that defied mortal understanding. Yet even as they reached ever higher, their ambition stirred something deep and malevolent, something that slumbered beneath the veneer of reality, waiting to be awakened by the hubris of mortal hands. On a night when the moon hung low and red against a starless sky, the citizens of Zath gathered in secret. In a ritual of desperate hope and blind ambition, they performed rites intended to tear asunder the veil that separates worlds. Their voices rose in unison, their incantations echoing through marble halls and echoing in the silent void beyond. But as their words filled the air, the very fabric of existence trembled, and a rift opened, a gash in the heavens from which a darkness immeasurable spilled forth. In that instant, the foundations of Zath buckled, and the proud city was swallowed whole by an all-consuming void. The once majestic spires crumbled into dust. The fervent hopes of its people were extinguished in a cascade of despair. Yet even as the city sank into oblivion, the darkness it had birthed did not fade. It seeped into the stones, into the soil, embedding itself in the ruins for eternity. For years, you have been drawn by whispered rumors and half-forgotten myths, an insatiable curiosity fueling your every step. The lure of forbidden knowledge has driven you across barren lands and through desolate ruins until at last you stand before the shattered remnants of Zath. Hidden among gnarled trees and beneath the weight of decaying stone, you discover a narrow fissure, a secret passage obscured by tangled vines and the relentless passage of time. With a trembling resolve and a heart pounding in tandem with ancient, forgotten drums, you step across the threshold into a realm where every breath tastes of despair, and every shadow seems alive with purpose. The descent is arduous and relentless. In a corridor carved by the long-dead hands of unknown architects, the temperature plummets, and the moist air clings to your skin as though trying to drag you down into the abyss. The flickering light of your torch reveals walls etched with faded runes and cryptic symbols, each a fragment of a language lost to time, each a silent testament to the ambition and eventual ruin of a civilization that dared too much. Shadows twist and writhe along the uneven stone, taking on forms both grotesque and unsettlingly familiar, as if the very darkness itself is a sentient witness to your trespass. Soon, amid the echoing drip of unseen water and the creak of ancient masonry, a sibilant murmur fills the corridor. At first you dismiss it as the wind playing tricks on your mind, but the sound grows, layer upon layer, until it coalesces into a chorus of disembodied voices. Their language is alien and sorrowful, a dirge of regret that sends a chill deep into your bones. One phrase, repeated over and over, resonates with a terrible clarity: "We should not have opened the gate." Those words, heavy with grief and forewarning, become an indelible part of your thoughts as you press forward. The narrow passage eventually yields to a vast, cavernous chamber whose ceiling vanishes into an impenetrable darkness. In the center of this colossal space, an unearthly throne commands your attention. It is neither sculpted from cold stone nor forged from gleaming metal, but appears as a mass of shifting, undulating substance, alive with a pulsing rhythm that mirrors the heartbeat of some primordial beast. The very presence of the throne seems to warp the space around it, drawing your gaze into its depths even as a sense of overwhelming dread takes hold. Then, as the silence reaches a suffocating crescendo. A voice, a sound deeper and more resonant than the echoes of 1,000 forgotten souls, speaks directly into your mind. You have come so far, it intones, the words reverberating within you like the toll of a vast cosmic bell. In that moment, the fragile glow of your torch seems inconsequential against the all-encompassing presence that now fills the chamber. Slowly, from the living shadows that swirl around the throne, a form begins to take shape, a shifting silhouette that is at once both terrifying and majestic. Its eyes, if one can call them that, are vast voids that seem to absorb every glimmer of hope, drawing you in with an irresistible gravity. The entity exudes a cold, inexorable power, a force that both fascinates and repels in equal measure. You seek knowledge, the spectral figure declares in a tone that is as much a promise as it is a curse. But know that knowledge always exacts its price. At these words, your mind is overwhelmed by a torrent of visions, a rapid cascade of fragmented images that drag you back to the final, fateful days of Zath. You see its once proud citizens gathered under a crimson sky, their voices raised in defiant incantations as they attempted to pierce the veil of mortality. In a single, dreadful moment, the heavens themselves tear apart, and an unimaginable terror descends upon the city. The vision is a maelstrom of chaos and sorrow, proud structures crumbling into ruin, desperate faces twisted in anguish, and an all-consuming darkness that devours every shred of light and hope. The intensity of these memories is overwhelming, each scene searing itself into your soul like a brand. As the relentless cascade of visions subsides, you find yourself alone once more in the vast chamber. The oppressive silence is broken only by a final, echoing whisper that reverberates around you. You should not have opened the gate. These words, laden with ancient sorrow and inevitable doom, echo in your mind long after the sound fades. In the days that follow your descent, the horrors of that subterranean chamber invade every aspect of your life. The boundaries between waking and sleep dissolve, leaving you trapped in an endless twilight, where every moment is haunted by the specter of that ruined city. Shadows in every corner seem to stir with secret intent, and even the softest rustle of the wind becomes a sinister reminder of the darkness that now claims your destiny. Obsessed with uncovering the full extent of the terror you have encountered, you delve into every scrap of lore available, decaying manuscripts, whispered oral legends, and cryptic myths that hint at the true nature of Zath and the malevolent force it unleashed. Each new discovery feels like piecing together a vast and incomprehensible puzzle, a tapestry woven from threads of ambition, hubris, and despair. The more you learn, the more you come to understand that the collapse of Zath was no random calamity, but a deliberate retribution, a cosmic balancing of scales punishing those who dared to summon powers beyond mortal reckoning. The ancient voices that once whispered in the darkness now invade your every thought, their sorrowful laments a constant presence that erodes the boundary between your identity and the ruin's tragic legacy. By day, the mundane world transforms before your eyes into a distorted reflection of the subterranean horrors you witnessed. Even familiar sounds and sights become tainted with a spectral quality, as if the essence of that primordial terror has seeped into every corner of existence. In the quiet hours before sleep, as the last vestiges of daylight fade into a heavy gloom, you cannot escape the insistent refrain echoing through your mind. We should not have opened the gate. This relentless reminder haunts you, a spectral chain binding you irrevocably to a fate forged in ancient darkness. In the solitude of your sleepless nights, as you pore over crumbling texts and decipher cryptic symbols that hint at a cosmic prophecy, you begin to grasp the enormity of what has been unleashed. The entity you encountered in the ruined depths of Zath is not a solitary harbinger of doom, but a fragment of a far greater, ancient horror, an ever-present force that has shaped the destiny of worlds. Its influence is not confined to the decaying remnants of a lost city. It has followed you, embedding itself within the fabric of your very being. Every breath, every fleeting moment of light and shadow is now intertwined with that primordial darkness, As days bleed into nights in a ceaseless cycle of quiet dread, you realize that your life has become an endless struggle against an overwhelming tide of despair. The boundary between reality and nightmare has all but dissolved, leaving you to wander in a realm where every echo is a portent of doom, and every whisper is a call to return to the abyss. The knowledge you have acquired is a double-edged sword, an illumination that casts its light on the truth, while simultaneously plunging you into the deepest shadows of cosmic despair. It is a burden you must carry for the rest of your days, a constant reminder of the peril that lies in seeking truths that were never meant to be uncovered. In the end, you understand that the legacy of Zath and the ancient force it unleashed is an eternal curse, a fate sealed by the opening of a gate that can never be closed. The nightmares that plague you are not transient phantoms of fear, but living, unyielding sentinels of an ancient pact. They are the embodiment of a sorrow and malevolence that transcends time, a force that will continue to haunt not only your dreams, but the very essence of your being. And so, in a world where nightmares do not simply visit in the dark but remain, you are left to wander the twilight between hope and oblivion, a solitary soul bound forever to the eternal echo of a forgotten, cursed past. You awake to the scent of something roasting. It is thick, rich, decadent. Your stomach twists in hunger, but there is something wrong. You don't remember falling asleep here. You don't remember lighting a fire. And yet, a golden flame flickers before you, and upon the spit turns a feast beyond your imagining. The meat is glistening, caramelized to perfection, its juices dripping onto the fire below, sizzling into fragrant embers. The scent alone is intoxicating, overwhelming, filling your lungs with hunger so deep, so profound, it turns your limbs weak. And yet, where are you? The last thing you remember was stepping into the ruined castle at the edge of the woods, drawn by whispers of ancient secrets. The village elders had warned you not to enter. The feast is ready, a voice whispers, but there is no one in sight. You should run. You should flee this place, but you do not. Instead, you step forward, kneeling before the offering as if in prayer. You do not know when you picked up the knife. You do not know when you cut the first piece. You do not know when the taste of it fills your mouth. But you do know this: it is the most delicious thing you have ever eaten. The flavor seeps into your bones. The warmth of it fills your stomach. And yet, with every bite, a memory escapes you. You blink, and the walls of the ruined castle look newer. The dust is gone. The torch is lit. The banner's whole. A banquet table stretches before you, and you are not alone. The room is filled with guests, men and women dressed in the finery of nobles long turned to dust. Their silken garments shimmer in the flickering torchlight, yet beneath the grandeur, their features are eerily lifeless. They eat, they drink, they laugh, but their eyes are empty, hollow pools that reflect nothing. Their faces are familiar. You know them, but you should not. At the far end of the table, the king reclines in his grand seat, carved from dark wood with twisting patterns that seem almost alive. He raises his goblet to you, the golden rim catching the fire's glow, and smiles, a ghastly, jagged grin lined with blackened teeth. The scent of decay clings to him, mingling with the sweet aroma of spiced wine. His skeletal fingers tap rhythmically against the goblet's side, a patient summons, a silent command. "Welcome home," he says, and his voice is layered, as though many speak at once. The words slither into your ears, wrapping around your thoughts like coiling vines. The guests pause mid-motion, turning their heads toward you in eerie unison, their smiles stretching impossibly wide. A single chair, placed at the banquet center, waits for you. The king gestures toward it. Sit, eat, rejoice. You have been missed. You take another bite, your hands moving of their own accord. The flavor is even richer now, the juices bursting in your mouth like honeyed wine. And yet, the laughter around you grows louder. Your head feels light. The torches flicker wildly. The ceiling seems to stretch upward, impossibly high, the very walls of the castle breathing with some ancient pulse. You feel something at your feet. You look down, roots, thick and gnarled, twisting up from beneath the stone, wrapping around the legs of the banquet table, snaking toward you. They pulse with the same eerie rhythm, in time with the beating of your own heart. You try to move, but your body betrays you. Your fingers tighten around the goblet in your hand, though you have no memory of picking it up. The wine inside is dark, nearly black, and the scent is overpowering, rich, and metallic. A voice calls your name. You turn, but no one is there. Another voice, then another, overlapping, whispering, murmuring, chanting. The guests around you continue to feast, their laughter now shrill, hollow, cracking at the edges like glass about to shatter. Their faces blur and twist, melting into each other, shifting like ink in water. Panic seizes you, but your body does not listen. The meat on your plate changes, its golden crust darkening, veins of something black and glistening threading through its flesh. Your stomach clenches, but the hunger is unbearable. You take another bite. The moment the food touches your tongue, a memory floods back. A night like this one, the same golden fire, the same banquet table, the same laughter. But you were not seated here before. You stood at the edge, watching, pleading. The king, with blackened teeth, his face alight with mirth, raised his goblet to you. You begged him to stop. You tried to warn them. You tried to run, but you had already eaten. A chill spreads through your bones as realization takes hold. You have done this before, again and again. The hunger is eternal, the feast never ending, and each bite you take binds you deeper to the hall, to the revelers, to the curse. The torches blaze higher, the walls stretch, and the roots coil tighter. There is no escape. You try to stand, but your limbs are heavy, the weight of unseen chains holding you in place. The laughter around you rises, discordant and unnatural, voices splitting, multiplying. The torches now burn blue, casting ghostly shadows that dance along the walls. The floor beneath you shifts, softening like flesh, pulsing with every breath you take. The king rises from his throne, his skeletal hand beckoning. "Eat," he commands, his voice layered with 1,000 echoes. The guests turn to you in unison, their empty eyes locked on you, their mouths stretching into inhuman smiles. You try to refuse, to resist, but the hunger gnaws at you, an ache deep in your soul. You reach for another piece, unable to stop yourself. Your vision blurs. The walls collapse into a swirling abyss, revealing an endless dining hall stretching into infinity. The tables stretch beyond sight, their lavish settings growing more grotesque the further they reach. Platters of writhing delicacies, decanters filled with thick, pulsing liquids, and goblets brimming with something far darker than wine. The air is thick with the scent of charred flesh and spiced rot, a sickeningly sweet perfume that coils around your senses, suffocating, intoxicating. More guests, more tables, more feasts, an unbroken cycle of gluttony and despair. The laughter of the revelers rises, echoing in layers upon layers, distorting into something inhuman. You see their forms shifting, faces melting and reforming, flickering between the living and the long dead. Each mouthful they take seems to hollow them further, their flesh sagging, their limbs growing thin and stretched. Yet still they eat. They always eat. The meat before you changes again, shifting, writhing, whispering. The charred exterior peels back, revealing veins of deep crimson, pulsing as if alive. You recognize it now. Its scent, its texture, it is you. The truth unfurls in a sickening wave. Every bite you have taken has been carved from your own flesh. You look down and see your hands, skeletal and raw, the skin stripped away in strips as if you have been consuming yourself piece by piece. The hunger does not abate. It will never abate. The walls ripple with the energy of something vast, something ancient, stirring in the darkness beyond. The abyss calls, and the feast continues. A scream rips from your throat, but no sound escapes. The guests continue to feast, oblivious to your horror. The king smiles, pleased. The chains tighten, the hunger swells, and you understand. You reach for your reflection in the goblet's darkened surface. It shifts, warping, stretching. 1,000 versions of you stare back, each one trapped in their own endless meal. Some are weeping, their mouths stretched in silent screams, their hands clawing at the table in a futile attempt to resist the compulsion to eat. Others are laughing, their eyes wide with madness, reveling in the eternity they no longer comprehend. Their faces flicker and shift, morphing through different ages, different lifetimes, as if time itself is devouring them as they devour the feast. The hall expands, beyond space, beyond time. The ceiling disappears, revealing a sky that is not a sky at all, but a vast, gaping maw of darkness, spirals of flickering torchlight stretching infinitely into its void. The walls crumble and reform, each brick forged from shadows that pulse like a heartbeat. The floor beneath you ripples, no longer solid, but a flowing river of crimson that carries echoes of voices long forgotten. The faces of the revelers swirl together, an amalgamation of all who have ever been lost to the feast. You see kings and beggars, soldiers and scholars, all trapped, all bound to this endless hunger. Their memories, their identities, have long since eroded, consumed by the very thing they consume. And in that moment, as the reflection in the goblet distorts further, you see something else, something far worse. A figure, seated at the head of an infinite table, its form shrouded in shadows so dense they seem to drink in the surrounding light. Its presence is vast, suffocating, an abyss given form. You recognize the twisted grin, the skeletal fingers drumming against the wood, and you realize that this being has watched you, waited for you, since before you even stepped foot into the castle. The king, the feast, the endless cycle, it was always him. And now, it is you. The goblet shatters in your grasp, but the reflection remains, lingering in the air, laughing. You see the truth. There was never an entrance, never an exit. The feast has always existed, and you have always been here. The hunger was never yours. It was the hall's, and now it has claimed you. A final voice, barely above a whisper, caresses your ear. Eat, it says, soft, insidious. And so you do. There is no end to the feast. There never was. You should have run when you had the chance. Now, you never will. The feast is forever.